Lagos, the nation's commercial capital. This is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Olumide Macaulay.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, President Muhammadu Buhari orders re-engineering of the country's security apparatus. Rivers State Governor Yeson Wike describes NDDC as a cash cow for politicians, demands introduction of technocrats. Federal government raises fine for hate speech from 500,000 naira to 5 million naira. And massive explosion kills at least 50 people in Lebanese capital city of Beirut, leaving more than 2,000 others injured. Plus, business and news from Abuja, the FCT, and later from our studios in London.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's electricity generation reaches all-time high of 5,377 megawatts as at August the 1st.
On sports news tonight, defending champion Rafael Nadal pulls out of this year's US Open over COVID-19 fears.
And from Abuja, WAEC releases final timetable just as schools in Abuja resume after 5 months of lockdown.
The security situation in the country is still on the front burner as the president again met with the service chiefs at the State House today for the 3rd National Security Council meeting. This is coming amidst increasing calls for the service chiefs to step aside over the level of insecurity across the country. After the meeting, the National Security Advisor, Babagana Mongunu, told State House correspondents that the president has ordered the re-engineering of the entire security apparatus of the country. But it's unclear what the details of this re-engineering will be, but Mr. Mongunu is calling for calm, promising that the president, along with the service chiefs, are doing a lot to handle the insecurity in Northwest and North Central states. Mr. Mongunu says that apart from the security situation in the country, the issue of drug addiction and trafficking was also addressed at the meeting. And he says Nigeria has moved from a transit hub to a drug production center.
The last time the president did not conceal his anger about the declining security situation. What he said today was virtually a reaffirmation of what he said the first time. Yes, Mr. President said, you are doing your best as far as I'm concerned, but there's still a lot more to be done. I am more concerned about the promise we made to the larger Nigerian society, and I am ordering an immediate re-engineering of the entire security apparatus. And this is something that I believe will be done in a very short time.
Meanwhile, the Zamfara state government is considering the death penalty for informants of bandits in the state, and Governor Bello Matawalle says a bill has already been sent to the State House of Assembly to that effect. He's also asking residents to expose those informants to enable the state government stem the tide of banditry and other security challenges facing the state.
We have to share intelligence to all the security agencies in order to take immediate actions. And by doing so, we can be able to give the security first information so that they can be able to mobilize to go and attack to wherever it is. So sharing intelligence is important in security aspects. So we have to do so, and we have to provide that security to each and every security agencies that are in the state. The informant are a major problem in our society. We have to checkmate them, and we make sure that we take a decisive action against anyone that caught giving information. So we have a law already in the State Assembly which can be passed very soon, which if we found any informant or any person involved in this banditry, he will be killed.
For the Kaduna State government, the support of traditional rulers will go a long way towards supporting the efforts of security agencies in ridding the state of deadly attacks by bandits. Governor Nasir El-Rufai believes that if traditional rulers and their subjects assist security officials with credible and timely information, the criminals hibernating in the communities will be flushed out. He also explained that the state government has spent so much on security, yet the bandits keep sabotaging the efforts. He was speaking at the quarterly meeting of the Kaduna State Council of Traditional Rulers. And it's not just the government that's concerned about the rising security situation in the country. The Nigerian Interreligious Council, NIREC, has also condemned the attacks on innocent citizens in strong terms. NIREC, which is under the leadership of the Sultan of Sokoto, Muhammadu Sa'ad Abubakar IV, and the President of the Christian Association of Nigeria, Reverend Samson Ayokunle, says it's worried that the threats and killings keep spreading. The organization says it's constrained once again to call on government at all levels to make security a priority and double up their efforts at securing the lives and property of citizens. The group adds that security operatives must fish out the perpetrators to face justice, as well as mop up arms and ammunition in the hands of criminals. Staying with security, the call for the overhaul of the country's security apparatus is preceded by spells of insecurity in the country, especially in the northeast and northwestern region of the country. With lives lost, property destroyed, and people kidnapped, it's exposed possible shortcomings of the handling of the current security challenges. In this report, we'll take a look at the recent occurrences, the repercussions, and the fallout.
President Muhammadu Buhari has been very supportive of the armed forces, and having appointed the service chiefs himself, it seems poised to be a perfectly symbiotic relationship, as guaranteeing security was one of the promises the president made to Nigerians in his election campaigns. However, a recent wave of insecurity in the northern part of the country, including an attack on the convoy of the governor of Borno State, Babagana Zulum, is showing perhaps that all is not well.
What happened is that the shooting that has happened this evening is not for Boko Haram.
There is.
If that is the case, then we are defeated.
No, we have cleared them.
1,181 soldiers and 75 officers. We cannot go into a town that has no more than 10 Boko Haram inside.
Following renewed calls for the sack of the service chiefs, the National Assembly added its voice to the clamor.
Those against any. Thank you.
This prompted a reaction from the presidency, who reminded them that any such decision was in the president's purview. And the recurring banditry, kidnapping and insurgency, including the execution of 5 aid workers in Maiduguri by Boko Haram, meant reactions kept coming from all quarters. The latest call by the president for an overhaul of the security architecture appears to be an indication of dissatisfaction with the situation and perhaps what to expect in the not-too-distant future.
And we'll have more on security in the course of the news at 10 today. Elsewhere, the federal government has raised the fine of hate speech from 500,000 naira to 5 million naira as it commends broadcast stations for devoting airtime to educate the public on emergencies such as the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, mentioned this at the unveiling of the amended 6th edition of the Broadcasting Code. Our correspondent, Neota Egbe, reports.
Another highlight of the amendment is the provision that has raised the fine for hate speeches and divisive messages from 500,000 naira to 5 million naira. We believe that this will serve as a deterrent to those who want to use our broadcast stations to sow seed of discord. From the above, it is clear that it is a regulatory function to establish the code. It is democratic when the regulator engages stakeholders to get their views. The broadcasting code is not a static document. As we often say, broadcasting is dynamic. Therefore, even the 6th edition of the code shall be reviewed at the appropriate time. Our attention remains the good of the country. We need to catalyze the growth of the local industry. We need to create jobs for our teeming creative youths. The opportunities must be created, and we believe that effective regulatory interventions are a sure way of attaining this. That is why we will not waver.
And now we turn our attention to the ongoing controversy trailing the award of contracts at the Niger Delta Development Commission, the NDDC. The latest reaction is coming from the chairman of the Palliative Distribution Committee of the Commission, Mr. Sobobamo Jackrich, who's alleging that the Interim Management Committee, IMC, of the Commission embezzled the sum of 6.2 billion naira under the guise of distribution of palliatives. In a 12-paragraph petition addressed to the Senate President Ahmed Lawan, Mr. Jackrich stated that the 6.2 billion naira was specifically approved by President Muhammadu Buhari in April for procurement and distribution of palliatives to residents of the 9 states covered by the Commission. He alleges that most of the food items that the IMC claimed to have distributed were spoilt, and what was distributed under the guise of medical equipment were old goods and wares in the Commission's warehouses. Mr. Jackrich further alleges that no single kits on COVID-19 test centers were set up by the Commission in the 9 Niger Delta states till date. In the petition, he is demanding that the National Assembly investigate the alleged misappropriation and diversion of 6.2 billion naira NDDC palliative money. Mr. Jackrich is also calling for the dissolution of the paneled, that is the Pandey-led IMC by President Muhammadu Buhari to pave way for thorough financial sanitation of the Commission. Meanwhile, Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike says the recent revelations on the activities of the NDDC is not a surprise to him, noting that the NDDC had since deviated from its original mandate and has become a cash cow for politicians. Governor Wike believes that in order to reverse the fortunes of the agency, technocrats and not politicians will be placed in charge of the Commission to enable it function effectively. The governor stated his views on our breakfast program, Sunrise Daily, in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital.
Everybody knows that anything was set up for the development of the region. Unfortunately, they have turned it to a different thing. NDDC is a cash cow for politicians. When they are talking about probing IMC, and I said, look, what are you doing only with IMC? What about the other committees? Professor Babafa and the rest of them? Under the NDDC Act, there should be governing board, made up of the governors, right? Since 2015, we have been asking of that board. It was only last year that the president was able to invite us to a meeting and consult the governing board. But that is just theory. Now, what's of it that, you know, in South, out of 6 states before now, we have PDP governors. Only Edo was APC. Nobody consults the governors. No. Nobody consults the governors. Oh, they are PDP governors. Why do we have to consult them? Fine. So you don't even know what NDDC is doing. That is why all these things they are talking about fighting themselves, they are not fighting themselves. Well, no government is interested.
But
so we don't have any power. But the point remains that, okay, why can't we remove politicians of heading NDDC? Why? If they're talking about development of a place, why can't we say, okay, no more politicians, go and bring technocrats. To do this is a special work. But like I said, every politician wants to control NDDC.
In part 2, after the break, we'll be joined on the news at 10 and have more on the security situation by retired Air Vice Marshal Adebola Adekunle. Please stay with us.
Watch Channels Television on DSTV Channel 420.
The Bank of Nigeria says a total of 539.8 million naira.
Channels Television is now on DSTV Channel 420.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television, Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. President Muhammadu Buhari orders re-engineering of the country's security apparatus. Rivers State Governor Yesam Wike describes NDDC as a cash cow of politicians, demands introduction of technocrats. Federal government raises fine for hate speech from 500,000 naira to 5 million naira. And dozens of people killed and several others injured in massive explosion at Lebanese capital city of Beirut. Death toll has risen to above 70, with over 3,000 others injured. Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Please subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and Roku. Now, joining us on the news at 10 to look at the President's order for re-engineering of the nation's security apparatus is retired Air Vice Marshal Adebola Adekunle, a former Chief of Training and Operations of the Nigerian Air Force. He's also a security consultant. He joins us from our Abuja studios. You're welcome to the news at 10.
Thanks for having me.
Do you have a feeling that the President may finally be disposed to changing the service chiefs?
Well, thank you. Pardon me if I choose not to agree with those who want to stampede the president into taking a decision which is exclusively his to take. The president remains the commander-in-chief. The decision as to who leads the armed forces is exclusively his. And with the benefit of hindsight, I know that the president gets information briefings on a regular basis, which all of us who are not directly involved with running the armed forces now, regardless of whatever other offices we occupy in the nation, we are not privy to. So if the president has been hearing all this hue and cry about changing the service chiefs, and he has refused to change them, he must know something that we don't know. We elected him as president, and we must trust him. I agree that all of us are eager to see the war against insurgency and, of course, the recent banditry and all that stuff you have in different parts of the country brought to an end. But then the impression is being created that changing the service chiefs will just solve all that overnight.
Then what then
if
do
the
you
president feels that changing the service chief will make a difference, I am sure he will effect a change. But he is not convinced, as we speak, that changing there will make the difference. That's why he hasn't effected the change. 15 was that he'll address the issue of national security, tackle our economic difficulties.
How then, sir, do you reinterpret?
And how then, environment for us to prosper as a nation.
Sorry to jump in here, but how then do you interpret the words of the National Security Advisor on the re-engineering of the security apparatus that has just been mentioned today?
Well, re-engineering does not necessarily involve only changing of service chiefs. Change of service chiefs could be part of the re-engineering. But my concern is the impression is being created that the moment we change the service chiefs, everything will be resolved overnight and Nigeria will become an El Dorado. I'm just concerned that we may be preparing ourselves for disappointment again.
Therefore, is the problem really with the service chiefs?
That the service chiefs are the problem right now.
So okay, so you think the problem may not really be with the service chiefs or the approach to tackling some of these issues? A case in point is a recent face-off between the Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum and the military, where the governor accused the military of sabotage. What's your view about this?
Well, that's a very sensitive issue. And again, the governor probably has information that I am not privy to right now. So he's in the position to make that kind of allegation. But I believe the service chiefs are responsible and responsive enough that they are bound to do a critical self-examination and ask themselves, why will we put ourselves in a situation where the governor of a state who is feeling the brunt of what is going on in Northeast will make a huge allegation like that?
He made that.
I believe they will respond appropriately.
Yes, and he made that on the premise of him saying that Baga had been secured by the military, which is the impression they gave him, and that's why he undertook that journey.
Well, Baga is a very critical city on the edge of the Lake Chad. The crippling of economic activities there, in my humble opinion, and its environment, is one of the things that had led to what we are now referring to as insurgency in the Northeast. The population in that area is huge. They rely mainly on fishing and other agricultural activities. Now, when such people, as a result of the drying up of the Lake Chad, when people are no longer able to partake in their natural activities that bring them means of livelihood, they resort to doing other things.
Okay, so
most of us don't know that the Lake Chad, as we speak, is less than 20% of what it used to be when I was a young student pilot a few years back.
Okay, so let's talk about solutions now. Let's talk about the solutions now, sir. Now that is the case, if indeed the president does change the service chiefs, what will be your advice on how to achieve the quick gains in tackling the security situation?
For me as a person, maybe changing the service chiefs may be desirable, fine, but it's just going to be only one of a series of steps that needs to be taken. Chief among which is to get the people to buy into this issue of fighting the insurgency. The people who are doing this thing, they are not ghosts. They are children of people, they are cousins, they are relations of people. In 2019, there were 3 or 4 bombings that followed the same patterns. 2 girls who had disappeared from the environment were suddenly seen, and then, lo and behold, bam, there was an explosion. Those 3 incidents followed the same pattern. There must have been somebody who recognized them. How come nobody reported that to the appropriate agencies? So it means somebody somewhere is not convinced that this is my fight to fight. You must get the hearts and minds of the people to be on the side of the government and see that this is a national
we just have to leave
existential issue.
We'll have to leave it there, sir. Thank you so much for your opinions on this issue. We've been speaking with Air Vice Marshal Adebola Adekunle. You're welcome. Former Chief of Training and Operations in the Nigerian Air Force. To politics now, the People's Democratic Party in Edo State says it's still in charge of the State House of Assembly and that the lawmakers who allegedly collected 40 million naira to join the opposition are not recognized members of the legislature. The chairman of the Edo PDP Campaign Council, Mr. Dan Obi, made the claims while addressing supporters during the party's governorship campaign in Igala, Akoko Edo local government area of the state. The majority leader of the State House of Assembly, Roland Asoro, also alleged that some lawmakers received 40 million naira to support the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Mr. Osage Ezeyamu.
We only had 10 members of the State House of Assembly. The other members, their seats were declared vacant. And it is unlawful for anyone, for political reasons, to start referring them as elected members of the House. Their seats are do you call those who were never sworn in as members of the House of Assembly, but I know the problem. They are feeling the heat. They are now looking for councillors. They are looking for those who were never sworn in as members of the State House of Assembly, trying to say these are members of the Assembly. The elected Speaker of the State House of Assembly is with the governor. Clap for him. The majority leader is with the governor.
The Assembly is composed of 10 honorable members, and 7 of us are the wise honorable members, and we have decided not to collect money from anybody, but to support a government that is performing. Today they call me Mr. Project in my local government. Why are they calling me Mr. Project? Because of the various projects that Obaseki and Shaibu have done in my local government. Is that not why you sent me to the local government to represent you? If I decide to collect 40 million and put in my pocket, is that representation? No. I ask you, is that representation? No. Representation is to ensure there is roads, good education, good health care.
And the All Progressives Congress, APC, is also intensifying its campaign in Edo State. As the party's flag bearer, Pastor Osage Ezeyamu's campaign organization believes that one of the ways to measure the success of the upcoming Edo State governorship election is by ensuring that the populace are adequately sensitized against void votes. The campaign organization, therefore, commenced the creating awareness for traders and residents of Benin City, the state capital, on the need to vote appropriately in the election, and as well as canvass support for the Edo APC governorship candidate, Pastor Osage Ezeyamu.
It's a matter of weeks to the Edo governorship election, with campaigns getting more intense by the day. Today, the Ezeyamu campaign organization are not only out to canvass for votes, but also to educate traders on how to ensure that their votes count.
On that day, they are going to get something like this as the ballot paper. They are not going to see the picture of Pastor Osage Ezeyamu, not that they are going to see Mala Gani Autu, but they are going to see the symbol of APC, which is the broom. And we are telling them most times the thumb is always very big. And we are saying that you can use the index finger or any of the finger that is smaller to just take the ink and put. And it should be with him, the boss, not outside the boss, because we don't want any invalid votes this time.
The market rally is also an opportunity for the group to explain the simple agenda manifesto of their candidate, Pastor Osage Ezeyamu of the APC, to the people.
We will be going to make sure they vote well, and we will be taking the flyers along to sanitize them on the reason why they should vote Pastor Osage Ezeyamu, because it's going to bring security. Is going to bring a bad empowerment. It's going to bring a bad development.
We empower the market women to please come out in mass and support APC government. The POI simple agenda will take them forward to the next level.
All this load, like this permission load now APC do am. Oshomole now he do all the whole load where go this from permission from go to Aduawa. That's why I want to vote APC.
As campaigning for the Edo governorship election continues, organizers of this event are confident that their message will resonate among the people and yield the desired victory for the APC and its candidate in the upcoming election.
When the news at 10 returns, schools in Abuja resume after 5 months of lockdown with strict compliance with COVID-19 guidelines. That's on Business News. Do join us again.
Watch Channels Television on DSTV Channel 420.
So the Bank of Nigeria says a total of 539.8 million naira.
Channels Television is now on DSTV Channel 420.
And now we join our studios in Abuja. Here's Linda Higbe with more stories. Hello, Linda.
Hello, Lumide. The West African Examinations Council has released the timetable for the 2020 West African Senior School Certificate Examination, scheduled to begin on August the 17th through September the 12th. WAEC is also asking candidates to disregard other versions of the examination timetable in circulation. Candidates are also asked to abide by the rules and regulations guiding the conduct of examination by shunning all acts of malpractices and obeying all COVID-19 protocols that have been put in place at the examination centers. Meanwhile, schools in the Federal Capital Territory reopened for exit classes today. Before the reopening, the schools were decontaminated while students were subjected to COVID-19 protocols, including wearing a face mask. During a tour of some of the schools, the Minister of State for Education, Emeka Nwajuba, explains that arrangements are in place for the students to observe social distancing in schools. Students in the nation's capital are back in school 4 months after the COVID-19 pandemic forced them to stay at home. On resumption, the students were subjected to health checks in line with COVID-19 protocols. Those in boarding schools are also subjected to COVID-19 protocols. But some parents have their concerns.
I have a little challenge with this hand washing. This one you put your hand to open, and I think there is another one you can put your leg or the cubicle. Since it's a federal school, we expect maybe federal government can put that for those coming ones. I think it will be better because I don't know how they will manage this in 1 or 2 weeks. I don't know.
A school like FGGC Buhari, I am not too sure, but we are relying on the supervisory bodies and God himself to keep these children safe. If they are closely supervised, let's say once in a while, those who are supposed to supervise to enforce these measures come in here and check, I think they will be on their toes to do the right thing.
The schools have been rearranged to accommodate the guidelines for school resumption in the dormitories and classrooms.
Everybody has properly distanced the classes, properly distanced in fact, you can see how big this school is, and you're just bringing only 100 students. They are already missing in the crowd. There's no crowd here. The facilities are too big for the number, but we're working with the numbers.
Hostel rooms that are meant for 18 are taking only between 4 and 6 now, which is very good, and they've been able to spread them out well. The classrooms too have been well spaced. So in terms of the COVID-19 protocols, we are very satisfied with what we've seen here. And we believe that other schools should also do exactly the same.
The federal government is hoping to assess the level of compliance by the exit classes before deciding on when the other students can resume. Moving on to other stories. The former Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Mohammed Adoke, and an Abuja-based businessman, Aliyu Abubakar, have pleaded not guilty to an amended 14-count charge of money laundering preferred against them by the federal government. The former AGF, who was rearranged alongside Mr. Abubakar before Justice Inyangeko of the Federal High Court in Abuja, is accused of committing money laundering offences involving 4 billion naira. Part of the counts show that Mr. Adoke is accused of receiving the dollar equivalent of 300 million naira from Mr. Abubakar, paying the dollar equivalent of over 367 million naira to one Usman Mohammed Bello, and allegedly using the sum of 300 million naira alleged to be part of the proceeds of unlawful activities. The former AGF is also accused of making structured cash payments in 22 tranches amounting to 80 million naira, another of such structured payments in 13 tranches summing up to 50 million naira into his Unity Bank account. The prosecutor informed the court that new evidence uncovered necessitated the amended charge, and after pleading not guilty to the 14-count charge, Justice Inyangeko fixed the 11th, 12th and 13th of August 2020 for trial. And that's all from Abuja. Back to you, Olumide.
Thank you, Linda. OilServe Limited, an engineering and construction company in the oil and gas industry, has set up a partnership deal with Innocent Vehicles Manufacturing Company to procure locally manufactured vehicles for use in a massive gas pipeline project execution. The chairman of OilServe Limited, Mr. Emeka Kwosa, says this is in line with the commitment of the company to support indigenous manufacturing in the country and also to build capacity for local production.
The visit of the OilServe Limited team to Innocent Vehicle Manufacturing Plant in Nnewi, Anambra State marks a key step in the partnership deal to procure vehicles for the execution of a massive gas pipeline project. OilServe Limited has already made an order of vehicles worth about 600 million naira from Innocent, and this is part of the commitment to boost local content initiative and indigenous manufacturing. The chairman of Innocent Group, Mr. Innocent Chukuma, shows the team around the vehicle manufacturing plant from one section to another.
We are here to visit with him, see his production processes, and then let the world know that IVM is very effective in fulfilling Nigerian development, local content development, of which OilServe is at the heart of it. We are basically partnering with IVM in the conceptualization, manufacturing, and use of local vehicles for oil and gas purpose.
The partnership with OilServe will help Nigeria as a whole, even Africa, because today, anywhere OilServe are doing their engineering work, anywhere in this country, they are using Innocent vehicle. And the Innocent vehicle we are manufactured here, and the Nigerians are doing it. From there, everybody have their own daily bread. But if they bring the imported one, I don't think Nigerians will benefit much.
The next stop is the quality assurance inspection for security vehicles, where the efficiency of bulletproof window glass is ascertained.
So if the person does, I can save this.
With assurances from Innocent Vehicle Manufacturing Team to deliver all orders on record time, the management of OilServe Limited insists that the partnership is a patriotic one which will deliver sustainable hope for the country, as well as promote capacity for local production.
About 102 houses built along waterways and those on floodplains in the nation's capital Abuja will have to give way as the Federal Capital Territory Authority has commenced demolition exercise as heavy rainfall is still expected. The buildings were said to have been marked for demolition over a year ago, and authorities explained that the occupants of the affected houses were given enough time to move out of the flood-prone areas, but they had refused to obey the directive. The demolition comes after heavy flooding swept some parts of Gwagwalada area, council killing 5 people. The Nasarawa state government has asked security operatives in the state to track down the killers of former treasurer of the State Council of the Nigeria Union of Journalists, Mr. Benjamin Ekom, in Nasarawa State. Ekom, who was shot dead in his house in Washa area of the town, his murder came barely 1 week after 5 persons were reportedly killed, with 14 others still missing at Dausu community in Toto local government area of the state. And now it's time for business news. Here's Teniola Shobowale.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks, Olumide. Welcome to Business News. Nigeria's power sector generated 5,377 megawatts of electricity, its highest ever on the national grid as at August the 1st, and that's according to the Transmission Company of Nigeria. In a statement released today, the TCN says the feat surpasses the previous 5,375 megawatts recorded last year by about 2 megawatts after successful transmission to distribution load centers across the country. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, the Electricity Transmission Agency says the grid generation installed capacity currently stands at 12,954 megawatts, while the available generation capacity is put at 7,652 megawatts. While investors at the NSE have gained about 40 billion naira at the close of today's trading session, as the stock market maintains positive posture for a third consecutive session since July the 26th. Ekaite Afia tells us more.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. The month of August seems to be moving in the right direction for the equities market as its primary indicators remain in the green for the second consecutive day. Now, this comes after investors sustained their buying sentiments on some high-value stocks, particularly bank shares, which had the better part of sectoral activities with Zenith Bank as the key factor to more than 40 billion naira gain today. Now, investors also shifted their attention from earnings as only two companies, NACO and Deep Capital, released their financial results to the NSE. In response to the bargain hunting activities, the market's main index climbed higher by 0.31% after 23 equities recorded gains, while 10 stocks recorded losses. So we hope to see the positive trend continue into midweek trading sessions. Thanks for joining us for the Stock Market Report. I'm Ekaite Afia.
Thanks, Ekaite. It's also positive close for some of the world's leading stock markets amid weak earnings results in Europe, while investors focus on ongoing talks by U.S. lawmakers for a new coronavirus stimulus package. Well, here are some of Tuesday's closing figures. And that's Business News Tonight. It's back to you, Olumide.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Teniola. Still ahead on the news at 10, massive explosion hits Lebanese capital city of Beirut, leaving many people injured. Plus, more stories from our London studio and around the world in 5. Please stay with us.
Watch Channels Television on DSTV channel 420.
The Bank of Nigeria says a total of 539.8 million naira.
Channels Television is now on DSTV channel 420.
What you're seeing there is the live picture from a massive explosion in the Lebanese capital, Beirut, which has killed at least 73 people and injured more than 3,007 others. Officials are blaming highly explosive material stored in a warehouse for 6 years. An investigation is underway to find the exact trigger for the explosion. The blast, which flattened much of the capital's port, was felt in Cyprus. That's an island around 240 kilometers from Beirut. Hospitals are said to be overwhelmed by casualties, with many calling for blood donations. Lebanon's Prime Minister Hassan Diab says that those responsible for the explosion will pay the price. He's called for a day of mourning on Wednesday. And let's get more international news. Standing by Simon Pusey in our London studios and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The US President Donald Trump has said the government should get a cut from the sale of TikTok's US unit if an American firm buys it.
But we want no security problems with China.
Trump said he made a demand for a substantial portion of the purchase price in a phone call at the weekend with Microsoft's boss. He also warned he will ban the app, which is owned by China's ByteDance, on the 15th of September if there is no deal. Meanwhile, a New York prosecutor seeking Trump's tax returns has said he is investigating reported protracted criminal conduct at the Trump Organization. Monday's court filing suggests the inquiry is broader than alleged hush money payments made to two women who say they had affairs with Trump. The Supreme Court ruled last month that lawyers could examine the tax returns. Trump has repeatedly dismissed the probe, calling it a witch hunt.
This is a continuation of the worst witch hunt in American history, and there's nothing that I know even about it. You know, I had seen that today, just a little while ago, and I said, what's this all about? I know nothing about it, but it's just a continuation of the witch hunt.
India's daily coronavirus deaths have soared to the world's highest, with 803 deaths and more than 50,000 new cases reported. The country has been steadily opening up since early June after a grinding lockdown that lasted nearly 2 months. And while the coronavirus appeared to slow in those months, it was devastating for the economy, giving it no choice but to open up. Meanwhile, stricter lockdown measures have kicked off in the Philippines, capital of Manila, following an appeal from the medical community for more drastic measures to curb infection rates as the number of virus cases has continued to surge. The new measures will last until August the 18th for Manila and nearby provinces. Latin America has reported more than 5 million confirmed COVID-19 cases, with over 2.75 million infections in Brazil, the world's second most affected country after the United States. Executive Director of the World Health Organization Emergencies Program, Michael Ryan, has said that the situation in Brazil remains very worrying. In Belarus, polling stations have opened in the capital Minsk as first voters were able to cast ballots in the presidential election. Belarus leader Alexander Lukashenko faces his biggest electoral test in years on August the 9th, as public anger has increased over his handling of COVID-19, the economy and human rights. The 65-year-old has accused opponents of working with foreign backers to overthrow him and has jailed two of his main election rivals. The prominent Tanzanian opposition figure Tundu Lissu has been nominated to run for the presidency in October's general elections by his Chadema party. Lissu fled the country after narrowly surviving an assassination attempt in the capital Dodoma in September 2017. He survived the attack with life-changing injuries after receiving treatment in Belgium and returned last week. He will now challenge incumbent President John Magufuli. South Korea's longest spell of monsoon rain in 7 years has caused floods that have forced more than 1,000 people to leave their homes and has killed at least 13 so far. Deaths were reported from landslides and vehicles swept away by waters that disaster officials said inundated almost 6,000 hectares of farmland and flooded parts of key highways and bridges in the capital Seoul. President Moon Jae-in held an emergency meeting due to the combination of the virus and 42 days of monsoon rains. In the US, Hurricane Isaias has blasted ashore in North Carolina, battering coastal areas with heavy rains and winds of up to 140 kilometers an hour. The hurricane has caused flooding and has left thousands of homes without power. Isaias, the 9th named storm of the year, was downgraded to a tropical storm after hitting islands in the Caribbean last week, but was recategorized as a Category 1 hurricane as it approached the Carolinas on Monday. Spain's former king, Juan Carlos, has left the country for an unknown destination weeks after he was linked to an inquiry into alleged corruption. The 82-year-old announced the move on Monday in a letter to his son, Felipe, to whom he handed power 6 years ago. He said he would be available if prosecutors needed to interview him. In June, Spain's Supreme Court opened an investigation into the alleged involvement of Juan Carlos in a high-speed rail contract in Saudi Arabia. And finally, mother and calf whales were seen swimming into a crowd of surfers at a beach off the coast of Sydney's Manly Beach in Australia. This footage shows the mother and calf pair swimming right up to the crowd of surfers, with the mother whale nearly pushing some surfers off their boards in an effort to protect her calf. Southern right whales migrate north to breed before returning to subantarctic latitudes to feed during summer in the southern hemisphere. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. And now it's time for sports news. Here's Jeffrey Uzono.
Thanks, Olumide, and welcome to Sports News. Defending champion Rafael Nadal has ruled out playing in this year's US Open over COVID-19 fears. The four-time winner at Flushing Medal says he does not want to travel to the United States while COVID-19 cases are on the rise. He has become the latest high-profile player to withdraw after Nick Kyrgios, a women's world #1, Ashley Barty, pulled out. Now, organizers of Madrid Open have announced the cancellation of the tournament's 2020 edition owing to the COVID-19 pandemic. The ATP Masters 1000 event was scheduled to hold in May, but was rescheduled to September because of the virus. After a spike in COVID-19 cases, the Madrid community authorities announced a number of new measures to control the spread of the virus, further reducing the feasibility of organizing the event. Fulham had been promoted to the Premier League. Fulham defeated Brentford in the final of the Championship playoffs at Wembley Stadium. The club will earn an estimated £160 million for gaining promotion to the English top flight. And Spain's World Cup winning captain and goalkeeper Iker Casillas has announced his retirement from the professional game at the age of 39. The former Real Madrid skipper had called time on this 5-year spell with Portuguese giants FC Porto in July after his contract with the club expired. Casillas had suffered a heart attack during a training session last year and has not played any competitive football since then. And that's it on Sports News. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Back to you, Olumide.
Thank you, Jeffrey. And the main news again. President Muhammadu Buhari ordered the re-engineering of the country's security apparatus after a meeting with service chiefs. The directive is coming amidst rising calls for the sacking of the service chiefs. Also today, Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike described the Niger Delta Development Corporation as a cash cow for politicians. He wants politicians replaced with technocrats. And a massive explosion today killed dozens of people in the Lebanese capital city of Beirut, leaving more than 3,000 others injured. Latest update has it that more than 70 persons have been confirmed dead. Authorities say they are investigating the explosion, but suspect it may have been caused by explosives stored for over 6 years in a warehouse. That's it on the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Olumide Mokoli.